Take it away. Okay, you ready? Okay. So first I want to ask how many of you are vegetarians? I know you didn't talk about really briefly. Oh, okay. So I guess most of you can relate to me. So if you think about what you eat on an animal, like chicken breast, chicken thighs, pork loin, bacon, beef tenderloin, you know, you don't really think about everything else. So you know this on the animal, right? Like the animal has insides, it has bones, it has skins, it has everything else. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more about what we can do with that. Currently, we only eat about 34% of a cow, so that's basically like the stuff you see at the store, ribs, steaks, stuff like that, ground beef, and a lot of stuff is discarded because it's not sellable and people won't buy it, so they don't put it in stores. And you might think like, you know, well, what if I just don't like anything else on a cow besides ground beef or pork or their tenderloin? You know, I guess that's fine if that's your preference, but if you think about if everyone in the world makes this choice to only like certain cuts of meat, how much we're wasting in the world. This is a cow, for example, but chicken, pigs, the same thing. Wasting a lot of the meat. And if you look at current meat consumption, the United States is leading very, very high, 125 kilograms per capita per year. So if you think about most of this meat, this 125 kilograms per year is only 33% of like a cow. So we're wasting so much of each animal, and you can just see as countries are less developed, they're less picky. Obviously, you would think they're less picky about the meats they eat, so we'll talk about this later, but developing countries, especially in Africa, are more prone to eating all of the animal, about 60%. And this is just another reason why we need to eat more of each animal, because it costs so much input to create and raise an animal. And if we're going to put all this into raising an animal for meat, why do we waste all this? So, there are a couple things we can do. We can all become vegan, which is a little extreme, especially for me because I like meat. We could only hunt wild game and not raise animals, which is also very extreme because, you know, like in St. Louis where we're going to find deer, we'll probably find like rabbits and squirrels, and you don't want to eat that. So the third, more realistic idea is to eat more of fewer animals. So to eat the entirety of fewer animals and just raise fewer animals in general. And this is what we're going to talk about today. And this is actually called nose to tail eating. It's something, you know, like with pigs, you know, nose to tail, or cow, nose to tail. And it is a little bit metaphorical because you can't actually eat like 100% of an animal, but it's very much the idea is to eat as much of the animal that you can and not waste anything. And this movement is really brought on by chefs and foodies, so people who have the desire to create, you know, like adventurous dishes. So people like Gordon Ramsay, Jamie Oliver, a lot of these people are really into bringing offal back into people's diets. So offal is actually, this is kind of gross if you think about it. So when they slaughter a cow or an animal, they hang it up by its hind legs. They slit it down the throat, so they slit it this way down, and then stuff will fall out, right? So it's like all the stuff that we don't want to eat, that we don't sell, falls out, and that's what they call offal. And it's like the heart, liver, intestines, all that stuff that's not really palatable in our minds. And I'm sorry if this is really gross, but Professor Quinn told me not to show any pictures because she thought that might be a little like too much, but you can picture it. It's probably not a very nice thing to think. And they also call it variety meats. So like if you think about hot dog, variety meats is kind of like the same thing. Or the fifth quarter, which is very interesting. The fifth quarter refers to many African countries that use offal as the fifth quarter of an animal, so they can stretch the animal that much further to feed themselves. So that's really interesting. So offal is everything that's not this, right? So this is exactly what we think about. Like these are the things we can eat. These are the things we see at the store. But nose to tail eating is about eating everything with this as along with everything else that's available. So one of the main reasons I think that nose to tail eating is really important because it really does focus on respecting the animal, because if we're going to raise these animals to slaughter them for food, we should probably not waste anything, because it seems a little, you know, I don't think rude is the right word, but disingenuous or wasteful. So this is a quote from Hugh Furling Wigginstall, and he's this sort of hippie British farmer chef, and he like raises all his own animals for his restaurant. He's a big player in the nose to tail eating. So these are just some examples of offal in our daily diets. You may not think that you've ever eaten it before, but like chicken wings count, fish eggs on sushi, foie gras, which is really fancy. It's a liver of a duck. Blood sausage, haggis, a lot of sort of ethnic, like especially Asian delicacies are really into weird animal parts, like pig ears. My family loves them. So if you think about it, we do eat a lot of it. We just don't really think about what it is. I mean, if you think about a hot dog, what is a hot dog? You don't know what a hot dog is, right? So you might as well eat this stuff so you know, like, this is a liver, this is a heart. Like haggis, there's a really interesting quote about haggis. Is haggis, if you guys know what haggis is, it's like all the parts of a sheep plus barley, and they mix it up and put it in a sheep's stomach, and like that's what it is. But it's really similar to chicken nuggets if you think about it. Chicken nuggets are just made of everything you don't want to eat on chicken, and they put it in this like friendly form, and you're like, here's a chicken nugget, and you'll eat it, right? So it's kind of the same thing, that you mash everything that's not good and you make it look palatable. So this is just an example of how we've already had it in our diet and we should eat more of it. And obviously a lot of people have this question, is it safe to eat? Am I going to get mad cow disease? You know, like, is this good for me? And it's pretty much as safe as it is to eat meat if you think about it. So like mad cow disease, if the cow is, mad, obviously you don't want to eat any of it, so just don't touch that. Foot and mouth disease is actually one of the ones that is more prevalent in offal, especially bone marrow, because it's been shown that the virus can withstand freezing temperatures inside the bone marrow or the blood. But you're not going to eat like a pound of bone marrow, so it's fairly harmless. And same with salmonella, it's usually from improper storage. It's not necessarily something inherent in the offal. And a lot of these things are also problems that we just generally have with meat or eggs or any sort of animal product when it comes to cleanliness. The second one is it good for you? Offal is actually not awful. It's actually pretty good. And, oh wow, okay, I'll go really fast. So we just see it's pretty similar to lean cuts of meat. Fat, protein, calories, vitamins, but like everything else, eat it in moderation. You don't want to eat like an entire thing of haggis or anything. So these are reasons why we should do nose to tail eating, but a lot of people obviously don't do it because you don't see the stuff on the menu with the duck. You don't see haggis ever at restaurants really. But here are some more reasons why we should do it. We talked about the fact that it's respecting the animal and everything like that, but by acknowledging the fact that this was an animal before, that you're going to eat the organs and everything, you really understand where meat comes from. Because a lot of the turn off from eating offal is knowing that this used to be an animal, and people aren't comfortable with that. So if you're going to eat meat, you should be able to stomach the fact that this was an animal and it has been killed. And then obviously environmental, if we raise fewer animals, we produce less waste. Should I just stop? I'm almost done.
Wrap it up.
Okay. So if you're producing fewer waste, and then economical, it's a cheap way to get protein, and it's an easy way to stretch how many people offal can feed. I can just stop.
Just conclude it.
Okay. So obviously, why don't we eat it? It's become out of fashion, especially after World War II and World War I, because it was a ration, like a war ration food, so people didn't like eating it because it brought back memories of the wartime. But we need to change that, and one thing we can do is to teach food responsibility, which is essentially teaching kids and people, like respect the animal. If that's what if you choose to eat meat, again, you should be able to eat the whole thing and not be so picky about it. And the last thing would be to change society's preconceptions, because those of you who eat meat, you think, oh, gross, like I would never eat the insides of meat. But like, why do you say that? Do you say that because you think it's gross, or you've had it and you think it's gross? It's mostly because society has told us, like, these are undesirable cuts of meat, you don't want to eat them. So a lot of this is mental, and I think that if we put our minds to it, we can change it and hopefully eat less meat, or eat the same amount of meat and less animals. Thank you.